The Global Director for Women on the Front Lines, here today with Vita Panico, our Prayer Director. And we are super excited today to be launching a campaign. And so many of you know that when we took on Women on the Front Lines in this season, we really wanted to invite women into a time and a place of coming together as a team, as a community, to make a difference in the world. And so part of that was that we created a very accessible on-ramp for women to receive mentoring through our Arise Leadership Academy for Women. And it's amazing, Vita. We are concluding our first year of that. Can you believe it?
I know. I can't believe it.
I know. We started in January, and I remember this was the funny thing about it too, and you're going to hear more about it in the next month if it's new to you, but when we started, we were trying to keep it a secret, and we said we'd just like to have 10 ladies so we could do a beta test and work out the kinks. But it was like she told two friends, and then she told two friends, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And what we've seen happen over this last year is a beautiful community of women who have found a place to be equipped, to be empowered, and to be mobilized into their calls, which really is the mission of Women on the Front Lines. But the second part of that mission is to reach the world to help other women. And this summer, when I was praying, Vita, a number of things began to stir. But in my prayer times, I really sensed the Lord was conveying to me that it was time to set a 20-year vision for Women on the Front Lines.
Yeah.
So if you remember, Vita, when we first got together to work on this, I had like a 1-week vision, and then we had a 6-month vision, and then a 1-year vision. And we thought it was a big step, to have a 5-year vision. But God began to speak this summer about, a 20-year vision for Women on the Front Lines. And I kept sensing and seeing that view of the globe, when you see the globe sideways all spread out on a paper. And I saw a foot for Women on the Front Lines in each continent of the globe. And I felt the Lord was saying to me that in the next 20 years, he was going to give us a footprint in each one of those areas, and particularly for Project Hope, which is a charity mission we carry for women, and through Project Hope to really raise up safe houses, houses of prayer, and places for women to flee domestic violence, things like that. And so we're really excited about that. So while the Lord was stirring me about that, and I was thinking, well, where could we go first to establish a foot in one of those continents? Tell me what was happening with you, Vita.
Well, for me, it started when we were in Nashville. And actually, it probably started even 5 years before that there was this desire in me to move somewhere. I could tell that a move was coming. And I would say to people, well, I'm here for a while. I'm here for now. And then things might shift. And what ended up happening was when we went to Nashville, I was invited to stay for a couple of days at the Kings Hill House of Prayer. My car had some work that it needed to have done. And I just was in this kind of interim phase. And they invited me and asked me if I would like to or consider coming on as one of their prayer missionaries. And I was like, oh, that would be so nice, because I have been asking the Lord for more time to pray, and life gets so busy, right? But I didn't sense that Nashville was the right place. I knew that that there was an agreement in my heart and in my spirit about moving, but it didn't hit me right in the spirit that was Nashville. So I began to ask the Lord, why does this partly feel right and partly feel wrong? Mm-hmm. And if the door is opening, why would it open for Nashville? I don't really have roots in Nashville. I don't really have any political affiliation in Nashville. I'm not even American. I'm Canadian. So why would that be the door? And he asked me a very specific question. He said, you said you don't have roots in Nashville, but where do you have roots? And it just hit me that I have roots in Italy. And prior to that, about a year before that, my parents were talking about selling a property in Italy. And I kept saying to them, I don't know, I feel like someday I'll end up in Italy. someday. Someday way, and for me that meant like way out in the future, like 20, 30 years from now, not immediately. But then the Nashville conversation happened, and I just knew that God was saying, I need you in Italy. And then I brought it up to you, and you said something that was shocking. So I'll let you take it over from there.
So what was interesting for me, Vita, is that, you know, we all have bad days when we're in ministry. We all have times where we're like, we want an evacuation plan from what's going on. And so I remember the odd time you would say, well, I could always move to Italy, right? It was this
Yeah.
backstory, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it was like in that moment, I went, whoa, this could be the open door into Italy. And let me tell a little bit of the story why, or into Europe, sorry. Let me tell you the story why. We had actually, as a team, studied a book called The Natashas, which was about rescuing women in trafficking in Europe. And we were really moved by that book. And one of the places that they were establishing safe houses for women to get them out was through Italy. So all of a sudden, when this started to come together for Italy, and we began to talk about it realistically, what if you moved to Italy? And you know, sometimes something that seemed really far away or seemed not real will suddenly feel very real. You'll just know in your knower, right? And all of a sudden it just feels like, yes, this is what we should do. And, you know, and it'll feel possible. It'll feel like the right thing. And that began to come together. Well, in addition to that, we began to connect supernaturally, really, with some people around us. You know, Brandy Belthead, a good friend of ours who has been involved with me with Women on the Front Lines since I started, messaged me and said, I've had this dream about you and I and women on the front lines in Europe and trafficking and helping women. And then some other friends we have in Europe, basically they are involved through Catch the Fire. They had connections in Europe. And in fact, some of their connections were so in alignment with what we would want to do in Europe that it became wow. And so what's happened out of that is, Vita, what is happening on January 5th or 6th for you?
Well, I'm picking up my life and I'm moving. I'm coming to see you first in Arizona. And then on the 16th of January, I'm on another plane heading over to Italy with my dog.
So you have a home there because your family had a property that was intended, I believe, to be for you and your brother. And they've graciously said, come inhabit the home, be there, live in the home. And so this is a beautiful open door for us to establish a foot in Italy. And crazy things started to happen. I was at an event with Patricia King 2 weeks ago, and there was a prophetess there who was from Italy. And she approached me, and she was wearing the most beautiful, gorgeous Italian leather shoes with jewels all over them. And I kind of looked down and said in the morning, oh, I love your shoes. She came to me later that day and she said, God has put it on my heart to give you these shoes. Now, she didn't know we were wanting to go into Italy, but I was being handed shoes, Italian leather shoes from an Italian lady so that we can put a foot in Italy. Those of you who like symbolic things like that, you really love that. Some of you are going, oh, that's so silly. But listen, things start to line up. That's what I do know from my own life journey and taking steps of faith. And listen, it is a big step of faith to lease your apartment out, pack up everything you own, give away possessions, and move away across the ocean. But Vita has been serving us in prayer with Women on the Front Lines since she came on with me prior to the pandemic, I believe. Mm-hmm. And now this is the next season for her and the next season for Women on the Front Lines. We are actually going into Europe this year, and we're going into Asia this year. Yeah. And we have plans to go into Oceania and Australia. All of those doors seem to be swinging open. But this is what we wanted to invite you into tonight. So when we began to create the model for Women on the Front Lines, one of the things that is a byword with me, or my whole team will tell you this, is the word accessible on-ramps and the power of women together. And I just really don't like things that are elite, exclusive, don't include people, are not accessible. I want all women to have a seat at the table. I want them to have a voice. I want them to be able to participate. And so what we are doing with our fundraisers each year, and we'll just be doing them quarterly. You'll notice we don't come on and ask for money all the time. But in addition to women who partner with us, we invite quarterly women to come into a campaign with us to raise money for a focus. And so our focus campaign right now is Give a 20 to help us invade Europe. And I'm just going to pull up a fun little poster here that we have. And there you go. So there's Vita standing next to, explain this poster to me, actually, because you tell me what this all means.
You said give a 20 that
Yes.
when it came up in your spirit, and it reminded me that Starbucks's size large, I think, is called the venti, which means 20. So I have my little coffee cup symbolizing, of course, Italian coffee, not necessarily Starbucks, but the idea of the 20 being a large cup of coffee.
Okay. So what we are inviting you to do is I want to challenge every single one of you. We're going to run this campaign till the end of December. We have set a goal for this campaign to raise $5,000 from each of our nations that we're actually representing. We actually have women all over the globe, but we have two portals. We have a Canadian one and a US one. And if you're an international donor, you can use either of those portals to give into the campaign. But I want to challenge each of you to give a $20 donation or more. Why $20? Because I want to demonstrate what happens when we create an accessible on-ramp. You see, you might be a single mom who's saying, I don't have a lot of extra money, but I can participate in opening a door into Europe to help women who are trapped and can't get out. Through giving $20. And when we join those $20 together, we actually begin to be able to launch something in Europe. And so what we're going to be doing with the funds we raise is we're going to help Vita a little bit with moving over there, but then we're going to take any other funds and we're going to begin to establish programs for women in Italy where she is. We're going to begin to work on making connections around Europe to begin to see how we can invest ourselves long-term, not short-term, right? Long-term to make a difference in the lives of those women. I mean, I want you to think about this. Right now, at this moment, as we are speaking, somewhere in Europe, there are women chained up in rooms who are being trafficked and they can't get out. There is no way out. And we have an opportunity here to make a difference in those lives. And, I have had the honor, I will call it, certainly not a pleasure in that sense, but the honor of helping to rescue women already who have been trafficked and exploited. And it's one of those things where you want to look away, but you want to reach out because what's going on is repulsive and it's wrong. But if we don't reach out, who will? And as mama bears and as those who care, we need to not only reach out, but we need to show our daughters how to reach out. So there might be some of you watching this who have young daughters, and you could say to them, we're going to set a goal. We're going to sell some of your toys. We're going to sell Kool-Aid. We're going to make jewelry, and we're going to raise $20 to help rescue women who are being trafficked and little girls. And that's the sad thing about what we're dealing with is very often we're dealing with sex tourism. We're dealing with little, very young children who are being trafficked. And so this is something that's very meaningful to us. In fact, I have a quilt that is going to be going to Asia with us this year, I believe. And it was made by a young girl and her mom one summer. And they were praying into how could they make a difference in the whole issue with trafficking while they were making the quilt, not knowing that someday I was going to buy that quilt for them and it was going to end up going into the places we were going into to wrap around girls who are being rescued. So I love the way these sort of threads weave together and help us to be encouraged in what we're doing. So this is what I want you to see. Okay. In the pinned, there's 2 messages pinned in the chat, and we'll also put the links up on social media and this poster. And you can use either of those links to give in our Give a 20 campaign. We would love you to give 20. We would love you to give a 40. We would love you to give whatever God puts on your heart to give. And this campaign is going to run till the end of December. And then we're going to close it out and we're going to take everything that we can raise and we're going to make a difference in the lives of women in Europe. I mean, we have some exciting plans. We want to see women who have been trapped in religion in Italy who are hungry for more from God to be able to have a school of supernatural and a school of ministry so they can be equipped, those who are hungry for God. And Vita has been in our training schools now for a few years and she speaks Italian and she's ready to go. And so I love what the Lord is lining up here. So here's a challenge again. Sow a 20. Give a 20. The word vente is 20 in Italian. And so give a 20 into this campaign and you're going to make a difference with us. So thanks for joining us. We'll have the links up in the chat and we'll see you again. And if you're interested in our Arise Leadership Academy, you can find that actually on our website, WFL.org. So WFL.org, you'll find us and you'll find Arise. But we're going to be doing actually some interviews and some clips, and you can hear from the students who have completed their first year in Arise on the amazing way it has impacted their lives. And so if you're interested in that, we'll give you some links for that, and you're going to be hearing more about that from us in the future. Thanks for joining us. Anything you want to add to that, Vita?
Just one thing, keep me in prayer, keep us in prayer as we embark on this journey. And if you're ever in Italy, look me up. Let's get together, and because I'll put you to work. We'll pray through the town, through the region as we tour and drink our coffee.
That's right. And we're going to first establish your home there as a house of prayer.
Yeah.
And so won't it be amazing to see women who are Italian gathering together in that home to pray for their nation, to pray for women in Europe, and to see us make a difference there as women on the front lines. Amen. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll talk again soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Just one moment.